You know, I want to be truthful and say that I am not always in my saintly higher awareness or consciousness. There is an aspect of me, there is an aspect in me, a lower consciousness. When I look at the news of Maui and all the stories that come out of there and what's going on there, there is a lower conscious aspect of me in my ego that is very angry. And in contrast to my prayer and meditation a few days ago, would want to say the governor and all the officials that are failing Maui should be walked into the ocean with a millstone around their neck. That is what my lower conscious ego self would want for those people. Would they deserve it? Probably. But I am not just a three-dimensional, lower dimensional consciousness. I have higher consciousness, and that's why just in the Bible, Jesus spoke of those who harm and offend the little ones, the innocents, that a millstone should be put around their neck and they should be drowned in the sea. Jesus said that. And that's my sentiment about the officials in Maui. That would be a treatment they would probably deserve, but at a higher conscious level, when we rise above the consciousness and mentality of duality, we have to bring ourselves higher, and as hard as it is, say as Jesus did when he was wronged, when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They are so ignorant, so blinded by their skewed, traumatic self that they don't see any wrong in their actions. They don't see any lies in their proposals and messages. They can't see it. They are so dark and dense that there's hardly any light coming in. So yes, Jesus, in the example of Jesus, in the higher consciousness, we have to find forgiveness for this ignorance. And in the higher scheme of things, from a higher perspective, you really are not happy, are you? Hey, black kitty, white doggy, what does that message convey? Black and white, the enmity between light and dark. We have to rise above the consciousness of animals, who are very much a representation of the duality reality we are living in, of contrasts, of good and evil. That's what is playing out here. And in my higher consciousness, I understand this. I understand that those who perpetrate evil are one with those who are the victims. At a higher level, outside of the mental space, it is all one. And it comes back to the concept that as pre-incarnate souls, we wanted to experience contrast. When you go back to the very beginning, when we were all a glimmer in God's eye, just a dream. And we emanated, and we became consciousness, experiencing the light of consciousness. And I always think of it this way, that at some point we got bored with the mundane reality of always being in the light, always being in the good. And our souls had the desire to experience something different, had the desire to experience darkness, had the desire to experience forgetfulness, had the desire to experience causing harm. And the other one, of course, in making the plans, the soul that wants to experience the causing of harm to another needs to have a counterpart of a soul that agrees to being the one that is harmed. And this is how this dual reality came about. If we could tap into this higher perspective of the soul and not just live in the lower realm and the lower consciousness of our emotions and in our ego, in our reactiveness from the lower emotions, then maybe we could process this from a higher consciousness and not continue looping and creating more of the same scenario through the reaction of blame and anger and hate and resentment. Right? I believe that forgiveness is the energy that will undo this cycle. But we have to get out of our reactive emotions and ego long enough to tap into a higher perspective, into a higher consciousness that will stop the duality, cause and reaction cycle. You are more than the human avatar that's walking on this earth. We have to always remember that. We are more than this physical life. And as soon as we lose this physical bodies, our souls are released from all suffering. So, suffering is temporary, and the way I tend to see it is, as I said, we made soul agreements where one soul has to be the bad guy and the other soul the victim in order to play out this reality. And but at the end of the day, at the end of this cycle, when we're all returning back to the light, we're all one. And we were all in agreement of playing our roles in this, we would have to call it a horror movie. This is a horror movie in the genre of horror. And we, for some reason, chose that we wanted to experience what that is like. And it comes in horrible, different forms. So, anyways, I don't expect you to agree with me on this. But I do know that we need to get in control of our emotions. Because the reactiveness is what keeps the energy of war and enmity perpetually going. So, how do we control our emotions? We must become still. We must remove ourselves from the stimuli that will constantly stir the reactions. And we must still ourselves, still our ego, still our ego mind and its thoughts, its victimized emotions, and come up higher into spirit and see and understand this from a higher perspective.